Ain't no has Steppin Marcus J. Be down with us tonight at 804-402-2893. That is, in fact, the number to dial to be part of tonight's discussion. Listening to us on TuneIn, thank you for traveling with us in your cars, in your offices, wherever you are. We appreciate that. You're listening to us on YouTube and our replays. We appreciate that as well. Like our pages and social media. Let your friends and your family members know that you're listening to the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio every single Monday night at 7 p.m. We appreciate it. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J. A couple of quick things I want to get to before we get out of the segment. I'm going to talk about Bill Cosby. I'm going to save him for last in the segment because it was somewhat of an update to that Bill Cosby story. But this one I want to talk to completely changing directions, Ruben. From the whole Jay-Z thing and everything that we were talking about a few minutes ago. This particular one is about a teacher who resigned her position as a teacher. Why did she do it? Because, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to read the story. Getting this from rawstory.com. New Mexico teacher, high school, resigned over complaints that she allowed a student to write an assignment about Jesus handing out marijuana. Katina Garasasaro, I said that wrong. She taught creative writing at Cleveland High School in Rio Rancho. She asked students to rewrite a fairy tale or legend in modern setting. One of her students updated the biblical story of Jesus handing out fish and bread to the poor and depicted Jesus giving marijuana to the sick. Quote, I don't take any personal offense, the teacher said. It's not written for me. It's written for them. It's how they can express themselves. Another student became highly offended when the students reviewed one another's work, and the teen told her parents, who filed a complaint in October with the school. The teacher, who is a published poet herself, was placed on administrative leave while the school district investigated. She said the district indicated she had not conducted her classroom in a professional manner. And the teacher claims the student had boasted to classmates that she intended to get the teacher fired. School officials said that she was not forced to resign, but chose to do so herself. She said she hoped the incident would not discourage students from speaking their minds, saying, quote, if they have something to say, say it. Not everyone's going to agree with you, but that doesn't make your point invalid or worthless. Tell your story. End quote. Now, before we get into commentary on that story, of course, I want to introduce our co-host who has joined us here across the table from me. I see her smiling face. My co-host, my big sister, S.Y. Butler. What's up, baby? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good.
I see you got on your sexy glasses
today. These are my sexy glasses?
Yeah.
Word. I actually, yeah.
You're looking all suave.
Well, thank you very much. I tell you, I'm going to need you around on my bad days, man. I need you really to follow me around on my bad days. Or maybe I need to record you saying that.
None, just chilling.
Nothing, just chilling. So as you walk in the door, I know you heard me set up that story.
Yeah, I was listening to it a little bit there.
What you think?
So she's suspended because she had the kids. I'm just going to make sure I got it right. She had the assignment to write a creative story.
Yes.
And she gave what she wanted them to write the story on.
Right.
And the child was creative.
Right. Wrote a story about Jesus giving out weed.
I just don't know what to say. He was creative. He did do his assignment. I think that she should have picked something else to write about if she wanted them to just be creative, because this is what you get. And while the child did do his assignment, he was very creative. Poor thing. I'm not sure if they should suspend the teacher. Now, I agree. She should have done a little bit. I think she should have picked what she wanted them to be creative about, but I don't think she should be suspended for it.
Nah, I don't know, Ruben. What do you think, man?
I don't know. I don't think so.
What do you think, Big Ruben? What you think, bro?
Lack of institutional control. Yeah, suspend her. I mean, look, I get it. Hey, I want them to do something creative. you need to give kids boundaries. You just can't be like, hey, talk about whatever you want. I mean, luckily we just talked about Jesus and weed. I mean, it could have been some of anything, and I've just thought about like 5 different things just sitting here.
Could have made it worse.
Oh, it could have been, it could have been, it could have been mommy sleeping with Santa Claus who want my daddy. I mean, it could have been a whole bunch of different
And they
things.
made a whole song about that, and everybody loved it.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, man, I'm sorry, but unless these kids are over the age of 30, you got to give them boundaries, man. And it's funny that we even talk about something like this because, which I'm going to delve into something completely different. This weekend on ESPN, 30 for 30.
Steppin?
Yep. They talked about, they had the movie, The U Part 2. Very good. If you haven't seen it, it's very good. If you've seen the first one, it's very good. The second one's probably even very better.
The U?
University of Miami.
Oh, okay.
So, it talks about the 5th national championship, the 6th one they should have had. It talks about the life and times all the way up to current with the Shapiro situation. But I digress. The NCAA gets you in trouble for lack of institutional control. You don't have control over the people who work for you. She did not have control over the students that she monitored. Now, I understand free speech and all. I get it. But these are still kids that are under your care. You need to give them boundaries.
So
Totally disagree with you.
I understand
That's fine.
where you're coming from.
Disagree all you want.
But if this story had to be a problem, you as a parent should have looked at that story and said, well, maybe this is not the right story.
But you're assuming that they're parents. And that's the problem.
Really?
I'm being honest about it.
I don't know if you listened to the story or researched it on your own, but here's what I know about the story and stories like this.
Mm-hmm.
She taught a creative writing course.
Mm-hmm.
She asked the students to rewrite a fairy tale or legend in a modern setting. And then she stepped back and allowed whatever happened to happen.
Mm-hmm.
She should not be held responsible for what the kid wrote.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about setting boundaries and all that,
It stops them from being creative.
what's
if
the
you
whole
set
point is creative
the
writing.
boundary.
And it just because the kid had creativity that was deemed inappropriate by some, it was the kid who wrote it, not the teacher.
Correct. But I get, and this is,
You never took a creative writing class?
No. But me working
Wow.
with kids, when you give them, hey, I want you to do this, you have to say, like basically we'll say, all right, I want you to get in the teams and I want you to come with a name for your team, and then you put that is 4-H appropriate. Because if you don't, then you are liable to get anything and everything.
Yeah, but that's today's world, Ruben. I mean, the reality is we didn't grow up with that. Our parents didn't grow up with that. And because the kid didn't realize that he shouldn't write a story about weed,
How old is this kid again?
It says high school. So I mean,
And you're saying to me that this kid
you got to tell the kid,
this child did not have the mental facilities to say,
so you're gonna
maybe
tell the
I
kid,
shouldn't write about that.
He should, and that's not the teacher's fault. You're going to tell the kids to write an updated version of Jesus,
But the teacher did not give the boundaries necessary.
What if the kid wrote a story about how Jesus and Mary Magdalene was getting it in? How about that?
That would be inappropriate.
It would be inappropriate, but would that be her fault?
If she did not give the boundaries of
So
appropriateness,
she has to
yes.
tell the kids,
I don't
don't
think she
write no
should be
nasty
suspended.
stories, and don't write no stories about drugs, and don't write no stories about no shooting.
No,
I mean,
you just write. You write. You have to. You have to put what's appropriate.
Well, maybe the kid doesn't know what's appropriate because there's certain things that maybe they just don't know. We know that kids cuss their parents out.
And you're telling me.
So a kid that cusses his parents out might not know what appropriate is. So even if the teacher said it, if this is a kid who goes home and drops the F-bomb around the house at the dinner table, then they don't freaking know what is
And that
appropriate.
goes back to you saying to me, assuming that the kid has parents.
Exactly.
Okay,
but you're also assuming she also assumed that the kid understood the boundaries of the message.
She's a high school teacher. That's one. 2, it's creative writing. If you want me, if the creative writing class.
What is creative about Jesus and weed?
The creative.
Absolutely nothing.
But that's not the point.
That is the point.
The point is for you to be creative with a story. He wrote a story. He was creative with his story. Now, she's not asking him, what would Jesus do? Write about what would Jesus do if he was writing a creative story. She's not asking him that. I think that he did his assignment. I don't think she should be punished for it.
The kid was wilding. Clearly, the kid went too far. But I cannot put this on the teacher. I can't do it.
I wouldn't.
I can't put it on the teacher. It's creative writing. You can go and write about whatever you want to write about. The fact that she didn't put the disclaimer, don't do nothing crazy. Mm-hmm. You know, I cannot put that on her shoes. And the fact that she has been forced to resign, even though they're saying that they're not forcing her, but we know how that works. I just think it's not cool. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den Legacy Internet Radio. We appreciate. Say again?
There are rules in this world. There are rules in this world. You just can't. That's called chaos. And she did not establish any boundaries, any rules other than write something creative. You have to establish rules. Because she didn't do that, there is now chaos. And chaos ensued in this thing that he wrote. And you're probably right. He was clearly wilding because he's like, well, I'm going to see how much I can get away with.
So how's that her fault? If you can sit here and acknowledge that, how is it her fault?
Because she did not give the boundaries necessary.
I just don't think that it's something that you got to tell a kid, don't write about Jesus giving out weed.
Man, you got to tell kids today to not pee in the sink and pee in the toilet.
But you know what, though? That's a parent issue. That ain't got nothing to do with the kids in the school and the teacher. I mean, that's not. See, the fact that you made that connection opens it up for me. Because just because I'm the teacher does not mean that I'm the parent of the kid. I am the teacher. I shouldn't have to tell you don't be an asshole. That's something you're supposed to know at home, to not be an asshole.
But had she said that in a different term, she would still have her job.
I guess she would, Ruben. But you know what? I am not going to support a school board that throws their own teacher under the bus because the parents don't have the kind of control over their kid where their kid doesn't know that you can't write a story about Jesus giving out weed.
But see, the thing about it is you're assuming that her saying, well, you don't wild out is stunting the child's creative growth. And it really isn't. And that's, I think, the difference that we have. Because you two are basically telling me by her saying that, hey, there's a rule in place, that you are cutting off the creativity of that child. No. Basically what you were doing is basically saying, hey, don't do stupid stuff.
Have a little class and decorum, yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the problem is, some adults need to be told that.
But see, some adults need to be told that. But you know what? I am not going to placate to bad behavior being the norm. I'm just not going to live in a world where that's the case. I'm not doing that. It ain't got nothing to do with it. I could care less if it's a school teacher and all that type of stuff. I don't care about that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give you the disclaimer after I've given you an assignment. After I've given it to you, then I say, oh, by the way, don't mess it up.
That's why you do it before. I mean, I see what you're saying.
I see what you're saying. This is one we will have to agree to disagree, but you know, I am a little disturbed by the opinion that, you know, in a creative writing course, you got to tell them don't wild out. It's like going on a field trip and you telling the kids, make sure you flush the toilet and wash your hands before you come out. You know that. You know you're supposed to flush the toilet and wash your hands when you come out.
But the first thing a teacher tells you when you get off the bus on the field trip, hey, look, we need to act respectful. Blah, 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 blah. That's the first, not even 39, but you need to be respectful. That's the first thing they say when they get off the bus. So you sit here and telling me that I shouldn't tell this kid in my creative writing class that you need to toe the line, as it were. But every child that goes on a field trip gets told the same thing, right? They get in the huddle. Hey, look, y'all, we're here. You know, basically, hey, look, we're here. We're in a public place. Don't wild out.
Don't embarrass me.
Don't embarrass me, whatever. But you're going to sit here and defend the fact that she didn't tell this kid, hey, you need to make sure you can write about what you want as long as it doesn't it doesn't break school rules or whatever, however you want to do it.
Yeah, I got you.
And that's what I don't understand.
I opened that up, and you make a very, very compelling argument. I opened it up, and you're right with regards to what you explain to kids when you get off of the bus. I can't argue that. You're right with regards to that. I guess I just have a hard time laying the blame on, because I was never a teacher, but I used to do after school programs and stuff like that where we would do stuff like this. And I never once would think to tell a kid, don't write something stupid. I just never would think of doing that.
Well, I mean, because that was, honestly, different time, man.
Well, that was what I said a few minutes ago. And because it was a different time, I guess we do need to raise the kids different in some aspects, but I'm not going to assume bad behavior. I'm just not going to do that.
But you're not
assuming. But you know what? You are. You know why? Because it was one kid who did one inappropriate story. Just one. And so because all the other kids got the message that you are supposed to write a story, I'm going to lose my job because one kid tried to have a sense of humor and ended up failing. Come on, man. That's not cool. That's just not cool. I mean, I understand. I understand it. I guess my thought process is, I have not been a teacher. I am not a teacher by trade or anything. However, I have taught children. And it's just one of those things where, man, it doesn't matter if you're a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 5-year-old, or 37 years old. You got to lay ground rules. And at this point in time, unfortunately, whether she either didn't lay the ground rules clearly or the kid decided to be like, well, I'm going to do what I want. And, yeah, maybe he was being a little asshole and he wrote about Jesus and weed. First of all, if you go to any school, you know full well, unless you're going to a Catholic, a school that deals in religion, you don't even talk about it. We're getting a hit from our brother Said, live action captions. Our brother Said is
Sup,
checking
Said?
in. What up, bro? He says that he thinks the point is being overlooked. He was given Jesus in the story. He says he was given the medicinal weed to sick people, not just for recreational use in the story, thereby symbolizing healing. What do you think about that? Does that change anything?
Does that change anything? No, because unfortunately, unless you're in a school that does worship of any type of, any type of God or whatever, that's just not allowed, man. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's just the rules, man. You can't go into public school and talk about Jesus. You just can't, because you may offend other kids. Now, when we were growing up, completely different. We did American Pledge every morning, all that stuff. I'm not saying what is done is right at this point in time, but I'm saying for me, and if this kid was like in the 5th or 6th grade, I would probably have a little bit more temperament. This kid was in high school. This kid is being a dumbass. And I'm sorry, it sucks for that teacher, but even more so, the fact that you're in high school, you have to set those boundaries because the kid is supposedly smarter.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that you can,
in the 5th grade,
the fact that you can acknowledge that the kid was being a dumbass tells me that he would have done something stupid, whether the teacher set that boundary or not. The only difference is if the teacher would have said, "Don't do something stupid," and he did something stupid. Okay,
she wouldn't get fired.
Then it's on him. But at the end of the day, it's his decision that created this, not hers. She's the teacher that says, "Write something creative," and then he comes and with his tongue firmly in his cheek, he writes something inappropriate. And just because she didn't tell him, don't do something stupid, now she's in trouble. I'm not going to buy that. We're going to agree to disagree and move on. Ain't no half stepping. We're Marcus J. live from the Den Legacy Internet Radio.com. Call us at 804-402-2893 to be a part of the discussion. We're going to take our first break of the night. And when we come back, my co-host S.Y. Butler, she has got a special segment that she's going to tease for you now and tell you more about when we come back from the break. What you got?
Ho, ho, ho.
Where? Ho, ho.
Over there.
Ho, ho, ho. Big room. S.Y. Marcus J. and our brother Said. And you know how Steppin with Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes.